In this exercise, I'm going to try out pivot tables and pivot charts, and I may want to do a little more manipulation with my data. So I'm going to use an if function to break the date down so I can maybe do a calculation on the month. So let me go to J1, and in J1 I'm just going to say month, and then in K1 I'm going to type in, quarter. So I'm going to group my months into quarters, and let me first figure out what my month is. There's a function. Let me go into the functions, Excel functions, and to date and time. And in date and time, you can get the day of the month, or you can break out the month from, it says returns the month and number from 1 to 12, or you can break out a year out of a time frame. Here's year, returns the year of a date, an integer between 1900 and 1999. So what I want to do is type in =, month and pull out the month from this date. I have October 27th, 2004. So you can see I have =, month, and then the value is in cell I2, and I'll go ahead and close my parentheses. And you would do the same thing for day and year if you needed those two. So October is the 10th month. I'm going to use my autofill handle and drag this down just a little so we can see. And yes, December is the 12th month. In terms of quarters, I'm going to use an if statement, and I'm going to actually use an embedded if statement, but let me start off a little bit easier first, and then we'll go into an embedded if statement. I'll do =, if, open parentheses, J2 is less than or equal to 3, comma, it is in the first quarter, so I'll type in quarter 1, double quotes, comma, and then I'll type in double quotes, not quarter 1. And we'll come back and change that, but let me explain what we see here. I lost my tooltip. There we go. In the if function, it allows us to do a logical test. My logical test is I'm comparing J2, the value in J2, with the number 3 to see if it's less than or equal to the number 3. And then if it is less than or equal to the value 3, you can see I have my next portion after my comma is the value that will appear in this cell that the formula is in if J2 is in fact less than or equal to 3, 1, 2, or 3. In the cell, the text quarter 1 will be typed. If 4, 5, 6 or above, then the text not quarter 1 will be typed in this cell. Now you can see that because it's text, it's surrounded by double quotes, and the same thing for the false value. You can see the layout of the if statement. It says if, open parentheses, the logical test, comma, value if the test is true, comma, value if the test is false, comma. Notice that value if true and value if false have square brackets around them, indicating that they're optional. You do not have to include anything if you don't want to. I'm going to go ahead and press enter to apply it, and it says not quarter 1, and that's true. October is definitely not in quarter 1. Okay. So let's make this a little bit more accurate. It's definitely not in quarter 1, but let's be a little more specific with our values. So I'm going to go into edit mode, so F2, and I'm going to change where it says not quarter 1, and I'm going to do an embedded if statement. I'll type in another if statement that says, open parentheses, if J2 is less than or equal to, let's say, 7, 4, 5, oh, I'm sorry, I should probably say 6, so that we can get quarters here. So we know it's not in the first quarter. Let's test to see if it's in the second quarter. If it is, we'll type in quarter 2. But if not, let's test it again and see if it's in quarter 3 or quarter 4. So I'll do open parentheses, J2 is less than or equal to 9. If it is, then it's in quarter 3. However, if it is not, it will be in quarter 4. Whoops, and I'm going to have to put double quotes around this text. Let me do that before I forget. And I need to close up my parentheses. So let's take a look at the formula. It's an embedded if statement. It first checks to see if J2 is less than or equal to 3. Well, it's not. So since it's not, we can't put the true value up. We now test in the false statement. We have, let's test to see if J2 is less than or equal to 6. Well, 10 is not. If it were, the quarter 2 value would be typed in. However, since it's not, we're going to check to see if J2 is less than 9 or equal to 9. And no, it's not. So automatically we know it's in quarter 4. We don't have to test this, so the false value is quarter 4, and that will be what gets entered into that cell. Now I'm going to use my autofill handle and drag this down a bit, and let me use my autofill handle again and drag both of these down. Now, what a pivot table and a pivot chart are for, I'm going to go ahead and talk about that as I try to get this autofill handle or fill down. What a pivot table and pivot chart are for is to manipulate thousands or hundreds of thousands of records to try to find relationships, because you can't just visually look at that many records and see what the data is trying to tell you. So that's what a pivot table and pivot charts allow you to do, to manipulate thousands of records to find trends and relationships and to see exactly what your data is telling you. I'm going to go back to the first cell, and if you go to Insert in the menu bar, you'll find Pivot Table and Chart over here on the left-hand side. First, I'm going to select my data, so I'm going to select the headings starting in cell A1 all the way down to the very end of my data, which is in cell K97. So I have my data selected. I'll click on Pivot Table and Pivot Table again. And it says choose the data that you want to analyze. That's correct. It's in the range that we have selected there. Choose where you want the pivot table report to be placed. So I'm going to go ahead and click a new worksheet and choose OK. And let's go ahead and create our pivot table. Now these are the fields that are in our pivot data, and we can see ID, store number, sales region, item number, item description. Let me go back to my sheet. ID, store number, sales region, item number, item description, and so on. Usually the numbers, items that are numbers, go into the values area. So I'm going to take, let's say, total sales and put it in values. And then I'm going to take maybe item description and put it in columns. And then I'm going to put maybe sales region and put that area into row label. It may be easier to see what the data is exactly telling us if we change the format of the numbers to a $ format. So let me, first I selected the data that I wanted to change the format of, and I'm going to click on the $ format. Now I can see commas and placeholders, and so let me just take a look. If you look at this, we can see that the East region sold the most keyboards, and we can also see that the East region sold the most monitors. We can see the East region sold the most desktops, and we can also see that the East region sold the most mice. So we can probably deduct from that that the East region you know, it may be a larger region. It probably has big cities. Maybe New York's in there. If we look at the grand total, in total they sold the most dollar amount of equipment, of computer equipment. So they did a lot better in sales. So we'd have to actually look a little bit deeper into the difference between the different regions, but in order to fully analyze the data. But we can easily see who sold the most products at this point.